John Locke, in his essay concerning human understanding, said, quote, "The certainty of things existing in nature, when we have the testimony of our senses for it, is not to be doubted. Our senses are the utmost evidence and certainty we are capable of," end quote. Hi, I'm Jolene at Lady of the Huddle, and I'm one of the two witnesses in the book of Revelation, and I am seeking to teach you the truth evident in creation and confirmed in Scripture. In this video series on Christian objectivism, I am seeking to teach you the foundations of knowledge so that you can judge the truth for yourself and so that you will be ready for the coming wedding supper of the Lamb. In our previous lesson, I answered the question, how do you know that existence exists? You know because you can perceive it through our senses. Doing this, you wisely build on the foundation of knowledge, and it's like the wise man who built his house upon the rock. If you deny sense perception, then you deny creation, and you deny God himself. But remember, we looked at Romans 1, that you can understand him from the things that have been made. Because existence exists. That's where we begin. And from there, you can reason to the one true God. In this lesson, we're going to continue our discussion on sense perception. And we're going to answer the big question, where do errors come in? So let's take it to the whiteboard. Welcome to Lesson 5 of Christian Objectivism. Today, we're going to do our second of 3 videos on sense perception. Sense perception is discussed in the book OPAR on pages 37 through 54. Today we're going to answer the question, the big question, where do errors come from? Where do errors come from? Where do mistakes show up in our thinking? That's really what this chapter is wrestling with. In OPAR it says that every process of knowledge involves 2 crucial elements. First, the object of cognition, and second, the means of cognition. And remember, cognition is your mind, your thinking. So the object is reality itself, existence. And the means is your senses. And your senses perceive existence. And mistakes aren't at the perceptual level. Remember, sense perception, you perceive. We don't make mistakes where we perceive. The senses are mechanical, lawful, and they're ruled by physics and chemistry. They don't make the mistakes. So consider an eyeball. And here it is connected to the brain. What your eyeball is a sensor. Right? It's one of your sensors. It literally takes in the data. It's not the interpreter. Your eye is the sensor. Your brain does the thinking about it, the interpreting. OPAR says, quote, "The senses do not interpret their own reactions. They do not identify the objects," end quote. So the data comes in through your senses, and then your brain is what does the interpreting. Your senses are signals. They're signals to your brain, and they respond according to their nature. Your eyeball just sees. Your ears just hear. Your hands touch. And then your brain takes that data and then interprets it. So where do mistakes come in? Mistakes can occur in what we'll call identification. Mistakes can occur with how you identify what your senses bring in, right? The mistakes aren't at the perceptual level, what you perceive. What you perceive, what you see is what it is. It's what do you identify it is. The mistakes are at the conceptual level where you can see when you interpret the things that your senses bring in. So, as one example, here I have a glass of water and a stick. And the book and the video talk about how the stick in the water looks bent. I don't know if you can see it very well, but you can do this experiment at home. If you take a look, it kind of looks like the stick is literally broken and shifted, right? Our senses aren't wrong. We registered what we saw, that the stick was bent. The error is concluding that the stick actually bent. That if it's in the water, it bends, and then when it takes out of the water, that it unbends. but obviously the stick doesn't change magically like that. So the correct way to think is to understand that it's the light that bent, that you saw, not the stick. And you can look up Schnell's law to learn more about that. Another example is a mirage on the hot road. Your senses register light shimmering on the road. The error would then be in identifying that it's actually water there. But you can correctly say, hey, the heated air bends the light. That would be the correct identification to understand the light bending and the science going on there. Another example of our mistaken identification could be a child sees a man in a red suit with a white beard. It's true, his perception is true. That is what he saw. But his error would be in thinking that the man lives at the North Pole and brings many gifts. That's a false identification of what he saw. Another way to kind of look at this and describe this is considering an animal versus a man. An animal works on perception only. Their senses, right, are automatic and there's no error. I mean, you don't say that a dog sins because he saw something, right? A dog reacts to what he saw through instinct, but they just perceive. A man is a higher level creature, and a man has conceptual awareness. He can think about what he saw, and he must learn the method to identify correctly, right? If our errors come in with identification, man needs to learn to identify correctly. He needs to learn how to think, how to use his mind, and he can grow in that and develop that. An animal cannot. So again, why do people make mistakes? It's not in their senses. It's not that their senses are broken. It's that their identification can be broken and can err, right? We can choose to evade. We can refuse to identify correctly. We can judge incorrectly. And usually it comes with, okay, I'm going to ignore reality. I'm going to wish or feel that it isn't what it is. But existence exists. If you push a ball, it always rolls. If you take a book and you push it, it always slides. Everything has its nature and it can't contradict. And our nature as man is that we can choose. So what is the remedy for this big question? We do err in our identification. So what is the remedy? The remedy is to seek the truth. The remedy is truth. And to prevent error in our identification, you need reason. You need to learn how to reason, how to use your mind well. You need non-contradictory identification. When you take in what your senses perceive, you can't contradict reality. Remember, we talked to you have to conform to reality. You can't make reality up that it is you can't take reality and think that it's something that it's not, right? You have to root your thoughts in reality. Our senses, again, are the raw data of existence coming in, the signals coming in, the data coming in. And our job is to interpret that data without evasion or contradiction. And one way you can say this is check your premises. Check your premises. Everything you think through, you want to use reason, and you want to start from the right starting place. So check your premises. It's the beginning of your arguments, the beginning of your thinking. And remember, we talked about how you should start with the axioms. Existence exists. I perceive existence, and you can't deny the law of identity. You have to integrate all the facts. You should test every conclusion against reality to make sure that it's true. And again, you have to submit to the law of identity. A is A, and you can't contradict it. So if you seem to have a contradiction, check your premises. Make sure you have no contradictions. Use reason. And that's where the rest of this video series is going to help teach you and how to do that. Satan attacks identification. He doesn't attack our perception. He tempts you to deny what you see. To deny reality, to deny your senses, that is the spirit of the Antichrist. Remember, existence exists. God cannot lie, and nor should you. In creation, there can be no contradiction. You can't contradict reality. You need to conform to reality. Don't conform to your own wishes. Don't conform to the voices of the collective. You need to test everything against the truth evident in creation. The contradiction is not in your senses. The contradiction, or the place where contradiction can come, is your identification. That's where you can go wrong. So with today, you should know the remedy, the truth, is that you need humility. You need to be willing to be corrected, right? You need vigilance, always checking, am I true? Is this true? And how do I know? And always seek the truth. Thanks for watching today's video. We'll see you next time for our last lesson on sense perception.